Support WrestleTalk!
Extreme Rules is coming up and Oli and Luke have challenged me to predict the outcome of the matches. If I beat them, I get to be a regular part of the WrestleTalk team, Mondays and Thursdays and maybe the weekend sometimes. So, it is all to play for. I am Fakidor, Laurie Blake, and these are my predictions for Extreme Rules. New Day versus Sanity in a tables match. So this one is airing on the kickoff show, so I don't even know if this counts. Probably. And the weird thing with Sanity is it took ages for them to arrive. They were teased forever and they just never showed up. Maybe that was part of making us doubt our sanity. But when they finally did arrive, they were fumbled completely. They had a beatdown on the Usos before losing clean the following week in a match with the Usos and Jeff Hardy, just because Jeff Hardy was in the match and you can't have Jeff Hardy lose. And that kind of killed all of their momentum. They've tried to rebuild it here with the New Day, having them appear and beat down the New Day on the pancake eating contest. However, while the New Day are swallowing pancakes, Sanity are swallowing losses. And they then lost on SmackDown this week in this 5-on-5 tag bang with the New Day, Team Hell No, and Sanity were pairing with the Bludgeon brothers. And the weird thing about this match as well is that it felt like it was very much designed for Team Hell No and the Bludgeon brothers to set them up, and New Day and Sanity were a bit of an afterthought. However, New Day are kind of fine whatever happens here, so I think realistically, Sanity have to win this to maintain any semblance of credibility going forward. So I'm going to give this one to them, Sanity. Next up, Finn Balor versus Baron Corbin. Oh, Balor versus Corbin. Oh, Balor versus Corbin. Why? Overall, not particularly into this. I don't think being tall is a reason to have a feud, big Cass. And it would have been so easy to just whip something up using the Constable Corbin character, where he's abusing his authority to have power over Finn Balor leading into this. Instead, we're just going with sizeism. And that's really all the kind of build that there's been for this feud. There was a cool little moment in the pull-apart brawl with Reigns and Bobby Lashley this week on Raw, where Balor just took a little dig at Corbin, which I thought was quite fun. But weirdly, that is almost the only thing that's happened here. I don't think I'm not invested in this at all. So my prediction here is that Corbin is going to be the one bringing home the W, because I think it's going to set him up to be one of the top heels on Raw. And I think there'll probably be shenanigans involving Stephanie McMahon, maybe, as she appointed him to be the Constable in the first place. However, we haven't actually seen it and we're kind of taking Corbin's word for it. So it'd be nice to see her come out and set up him as a proper authority figure, pun intended, on Raw. Especially as they don't seem to know what they're doing with Finn Balor, apart from making him smile and wear a cool t-shirt. Next up, Braun Strowman versus Kevin Owens in a steel cage match. This has got to be Owens, right? It's got to be. What I don't understand about this feud is, one, all of it. Two, the booking. Strowman is harassing Kevin Owens. Strowman is being booked as a heel, but WWE think he's a babyface. And I guess the only reason they think that is because Owens is running away from the fight. He's being the can't say the S word, chicken poop heel in this scenario, and that means that he has to be the heel? But he feels like the babyface, and I think the weird thing about this is that if you have the monster come and beat someone down every single week without any repercussions, like Sasha and Bayley got sent to counseling, Strowman and Owens have to settle it in a cage. Someone's being bullied, and then your solution to them being bullied is, well, you can stand in a cage with him. And he's like a legitimate giant as well. Strowman is outright bullying Owens for no reason. He flipped his car, which has got to send his insurance premiums through the roof. He tipped him in a porta potty off the stage, which is gross. And now, rather than settle this using HR or counseling like Sasha and Bayley, they get to go to counseling. Strowman and Owens have to have a steel cage match, which I feel like Owens has to win, because where else do you go with this? If Strowman just keeps winning, his career has no ups or downs. It is just all ups. He is plateauing, but at the top, but not winning anything of importance beyond Money in the Bank, obviously. He's just sort of coasting on smashing things up and that being a spectacle. There's nothing else to him, and it's boring to watch his matches when you know that he's going to win, because part of the drama of wrestling is the idea that the person you want to win might not win at some point, and then when they do, you're happy, or when they don't, you're sad. But the cool thing about this match is it gives an option for Owens to win without damaging Strowman too much. Owens can just escape the cage, which isn't a pinfall over Strowman, isn't knocking him out, isn't doing anything really. It's still just running away, which Owens has proven he's pretty good at, but he wins. So I think Owens is going to win this one, and I think what's actually going to happen is Strowman is going to put him through the cage. He's going to get too into the beatdown, put him through the cage, giving Owens the win. But Strowman gets to look cool because putting people through stuff is cool. Next up, the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, which is the Bludgeon Brothers versus Team Hell No. This one I'm kind of torn over. I think this one all comes down to Daniel Bryan's contract in September. The nostalgia act of putting Team Hell No back together feels like filler. It's great, like we like seeing them back together. There's been some brilliantly funny bits, the NSYNC bit particularly I liked. Oh, and Bryan setting off the pyro as well. But I think this is sort of classic, making sure that Daniel Bryan stays in a championship picture, but it's not too big a deal if he doesn't win it. And also it doesn't start a big program that if he does leave sort of just falls flat, and WWE have wasted and invested all of this television time and all of this push on Bryan, and then he just goes to Ring of Honor or whatever he wants to do. So with the potential for Bryan to just wander off with the titles, I don't think they're going to put them on Team Hell No, even though the pop will be insane. Then a safer bet is to go with the Bludgeon Brothers here and build someone else, maybe Sanity, as the team that's going to beat them at their own game, which is beatdowns and chaos and throwing people around. But not only do I think the Bludgeon Brothers are going to retain, I think that what's going to happen is that Kane is going to get frustrated, Team Hell No is going to implode, and he's going to lay out Bryan, leading to a feud that can be resolved on SmackDown, or maybe at SummerSlam, and then they can start building a proper program for Bryan if he does decide to stay with the company. I mean, he must have to stay with the company anyway, because he's going to have to be on Total Bellas, unless he's just going to pretend that he's an absentee dad. Raw Tag Team Championships next, and that's the Deleters of Worlds versus the B-Team. The B-Team's push is a bit of a weird one. I don't really get it. Like, I enjoy that it's fun to have the celebrations and do all this stuff and have them finally winning matches and having a bit of a weird winning streak, but I don't think they're very good challengers for the tag team titles. As funny as it is to see Bo Dallas impersonating Bray Wyatt, although I think impersonating people is a very serious business. Purely for the pop of the celebration of the B-Team, I'm going to give this one to them and see what happens, because I think they'll just drop the titles back on Raw when the Deleters of Worlds invoke their rematch clause. And then, hopefully they'll build to a program with the Revival at SummerSlam, and they can be the champions, and everyone will be happy, especially me. Next, the United States Championship with Jeff Hardy versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Nakamura has had an incredibly tough year so far. He won the Rumble, that was great. He had the match at WrestleMania, which he lost, sad times. He had a great heel turn, that was wonderful, but he's not managed to sort of parlay that into any kind of victory or picking up the title from AJ Styles. He's just lost to Styles every single time. AJ is looking incredibly strong. And then, to top it all off, he gets bit by a dog right in the shin, Shinsuke Nakamura, which is also why this match didn't happen on SmackDown in late June when it was scheduled. Instead, Nakamura was out for 2 weeks, and we had Jeff Hardy versus Eric Young, and then the following week, Hardy comes out in the red, white, and blue face paint to do the 4th of July thing. Realistically, I think if this match had gone ahead in late June, Hardy would have been winning, because they would have wanted a babyface champion for the 4th of July special, which actually went out on the 3rd of July. But anyway, they would have wanted a babyface champion to come out, get the pop, celebrate America, and then win. However, the fact that this has now moved to Extreme Rules and Shinsuke is on fire, I think WWE might actually do right by him finally and put a belt on him. So I'm going with Shinsuke. But then again, this is WWE, so for all I know, a bald eagle could just come down from the ceiling, whip away the belt, and he'll be champion for a bit. The Intercontinental Championship match between Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins, which is a 30-minute Iron Man match. Dolph all the way, baby. I think this is obviously going to be one of the highlights of this card. Both Seth and Dolph are brilliant, and Drew McIntyre is going to be knocking around being massive and brilliant as well. So that's all great. And I think Drew being there and being involved is what's going to give Dolph the win. Those two seem to be having a really big heel push at the moment, and they're doing great work, and it's really fun. And I think this frees up Seth, if he loses here, to go up the card again if he's needed there, and he should be because he's blooming great, or to do a potential Shield reunion when Ambrose finally returns, which must be in the next couple of months. And then there's a potential there that the half Shield, the Shield-ish, can take on McIntyre and Ziggler when the odds are fair. The other option is that you give Dolph and McIntyre a really good run with the Intercontinental title, but that's what causes friction between them, and then you can have Drew win the title off of Dolph, splitting up the pair, but giving Drew a big singles push. The SmackDown Women's Championship match between Carmella and Asuka, with James Ellsworth suspended in a shark cage. What is this match? What's happening? What's even going on? Obviously, that pesky Ellsworth is going to be the deal breaker here, although I'm not entirely convinced that getting him out of the shark cage is going to be any sort of help to Carmella. Getting someone who is physically weaker and worse than you out of a cage is actually more of a hindrance, I think, overall. However, that's not the way WWE will book this, I don't think. I think Carmella is going to win. I think it'll be Asuka falling victim to her own hubris here. I think she'll get Ellsworth down in the shark cage so she can beat him down, getting revenge for all of the interfering he's been doing since Money in the Bank, and that'll give Mella a moment to take advantage and retain her championship, which also means you can build to a big match at SummerSlam where Asuka wins the title and gets a massive pop and everyone's hot because it's SummerSlam. The Raw Women's Championship, which is Alexa Bliss versus Nia Jax, and this is an Extreme Rules match, which means the rules are extreme. They're all on skateboards. I feel sorry for Nia in this situation because this whole match feels like it's been booked around Ronda Rousey and Alexa Bliss. This is what this build is about. Nia is just a bit part player in somebody else's story here. However, I do think that will play in her favour. Ronda's going to be at ringside. She's suspended from Raw, but she's bought a ticket and is going as a punter to Extreme Rules. And I can't help but feel that in an Extreme Rules match where there is no DQ, she's going to have to interfere. And the cool thing about that is that she could interfere, giving Nia the win. Nia becomes the champion, but the feud between Ronda and Alexa Bliss is just beginning there. And you could build to a match between them at SummerSlam when Ronda comes back off of her suspension. And that keeps Ronda appearing at events, but not in the title picture because maybe she's not ready for that yet. It gives her a chance to still continue to practice her matches and her spot calling. It's just a shame that in this match and in this feud in general, all the machinery and the mechanics of backstage can be seen as the bookers attempt to book themselves out of the Ronda Rousey corner they find themselves in. And the longer it goes on, the more this black hole of booking just hoovers up everything around it. It's already claimed the championship and the Money in the Bank contract to some degree. I'm giving Nia the win here with help from Ronda Rousey. The WWE Championship match, AJ Styles versus Rusev. Rusev is the best. Rusev #1. But I don't think he's going to win here. I'm sorry, sad times. Obviously, this is the big push for the Bulgarian brute that we've all been waiting for. However, it's about 4 months too late. Had it happened back then, I think potentially he might have won. Here, I don't think he is going to, especially as part of the reason people thought that AJ retained over Shin at Money in the Bank was because AJ has been announced as the cover star for 2K19. And that doesn't come out till much later this year, and I don't think they're going to have him drop the title before the game comes out, because you don't want to diminish the star power of your man on the front. So sadly, I think this is going to be another match that is a victim to the mechanics and the machinery of backstage, and AJ is going to retain, which it's weird to think that AJ retaining his title is a sad thing, but only in the case of Rusev. I do think the end of this match is going to see Aiden English try to interfere, accidentally get in the way, and cost Rusev the win. There's already been sort of hints of this, Aiden overstepping the mark, stepping up to Styles, Rusev having to get involved to save him, all of this kind of stuff. There's a little friction of tension between the two, and I'd like to see that play out for a bit. And then they can give Rusev a big singles push potentially in time for him to be the cover star of 2K20. Not gonna happen. And now the main event. Roman Reigns versus Bobby Lashley. Bobbins Lashley. And yeah, I do think this is gonna be the main event, sadly. It's a bit of a weird one because this was originally meant to be a multi-man match for a #1 contender's shot at the Universal title. That is until Brock Lesnar went back to UFC and they were like, we might never get that belt back. So then it was no longer a #1 contenders match and it was no longer a multi-man match. Well, there's two guys, so there are multiple men in the match, but it's not multi in the way that WWE like to phrase it. So now all we've got on Extreme Rules is the Big Dog versus Big Bob. And does anyone care? Does anyone care? No. I think that Lashley has to win this one. He's currently being billed as the next big thing, the smiling babyface who comes out and loves his family and has fond memories of all of that sort of stuff. And is massive. Vince likes massive guys, so therefore he's going to go over. Also, Paul Heyman had a really big long go at Bobby Lashley in his Facebook post about there being no worthy contenders for Brock's title. In the post, he called Lashley the man who would be Brock Lesnar, which sounds like the beginnings of a feud. The seeds have been sprinkled. So I think Bobby Lashley goes over here and hopefully they build to some sort of program where he can legitimately take the title off of Brock Lesnar if he ever comes back to work. And also this could then be the beginning of the downfall of Roman Reigns, which I think is what's needed for his character. We've already seen sort of the inkling of this on Raw, where he was a victim of his own hubris, booking himself into 2 matches in one night and not doing very well in either of them. And then the cool thing is you break him all the way down to rock bottom, give him that little bit of heel turn, and then you can build him all the way back up to the top, and people might organically start to like him. Just maybe. So there you have it. Those are my predictions for who is going to win what at Extreme Rules. Hopefully though, the ultimate winner is me, and I'll get to stick around, and then we can take on Cultaholic down the line. We're coming for you, lads. But those were just my Extreme Rules predictions. To find out what Oli and Luke think is going to happen at the show, click the video on screen now and give us a subscribe to stay up to date on all of the latest wrestling news. I've been El Fakidor Laurie Blake. That was Extreme Rules.